we get done with our wall drives, we're gonna move, oh, that's not right. So the video's sideways here. We're gonna move into a drill, I just call it a back leg extended explosive knee drive. Now, you have to forgive me, I'm not real creative here, I just name it based on what I see. But all we're gonna do is, we're gonna get in that same position like we were on the fence prior to that. They're gonna be in that same stance, but instead of driving the knee up in front, I'm gonna start with that leg back behind me, okay? So I'm gonna reach that leg back. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a little more flexion in my hip and in my knee, okay? So I'm dropping my hips down. On the whistle, they're going to punch that back knee through, and they're going to extend through the down knee and the down hip, okay? We want an explosive terminal extension here. So I'm going to set up here on that whistle, drive through. I want to see some elevation within the hips. Again, intent. I tell them that I want them to pretend like I've got a piece of glass and I'm holding it right in front of their knee. As they drive that knee through, shatter that glass every single time. We want that quick movement upward. Cueing is a very important thing. Creating this image for these guys is a very important thing. We know that we can learn one of a couple of different ways. Either through auditory response, a verbal or a visual response, or a tactile. If I can create a picture for them, that helps them to understand. I can cater to those visual learners on what I'm looking for and what the focus of this drill is. So, once we've gone through our movement primers, then we're going to get into some of our technical primers. Now, I use, for our form running drills, once we're able to get moving, I use drills, it's called the Mach system. So for anyone who's used these drills, it was created by Gerard Mach. And he's got 3 different exercises. There's an A series, a B series, and a C series, okay? Now, I do not use the C series, only from the standpoint of I don't have the time, nor do I feel like we're going to get as much out of it from my multi-directional athletes. I believe that it is very worthwhile, but for having these guys for 37 minutes during the day or 45 minutes after school, I'm not going to spend the time on that. The B series, I think it's a great drill. However, again, I'm not going to use it with my multi-directional athletes. I think that it's great for my track athletes, but not necessarily for my multi-directional guys. So we're going to focus on our A drills. Now, for you guys who don't know or aren't familiar with the Mach drills, the A drill is simply just a march or a skip. The speed depends on what stage we're at, okay? But if you've seen it before, you'll recognize it as an A skip. So there's 3 steps to it. We've got our march, our skip, and our run. Okay? So, if I'm going through an A1 and A march, all I'm doing is, again, I'm staying long and strong. I've got that neutral cervical spine. My core's nice and tight. We talked a little bit last night about postural concepts. This is where I'm going to really drive these home, these postural techniques. So we're going to start with that march. All we're working on is keeping a little bit of that heel elevation, going through that march, staying up tall. Now, from a stride frequency standpoint, I cue these guys that within a 10-yard segment, I want to get 30 contacts. Okay, so we need to get 3 contacts per yard. So the reason that I talk about that, or the reason that I cue them to do that, is because we know what's going to happen. And you can see it a little bit here with these 2. As soon as you put them side by side, everything becomes a race. All right, as soon as the group is together and they're side by side, it's all a race. So you tell them to foam roll, everybody races over to grab the foam rollers, it's who can get done first. It's the same thing with the form running drills. I put them side by side, I tell them to do an A skip, and we're here doing our A skips. You know, we're flying down the turf. So when I give them that cue that, hey, listen, we need to get 3 per yard, they've actually got something to focus on. Because the goal of this is, I want to focus on that force magnitude, direction, and then obviously the velocity of that limb as it goes into that ground contact. And so the best way that we can do that is to control it as opposed to just doing it as fast as we can. So we're going to start with our A march. Once we get done with our A march, then we're going to get into our A skip. Okay, we're just picking it up a little bit. Same thing, going into that knee drive, getting that contact right under the hips. And then the last drill we're going to go through is our A run. Now, as we go through these, I still have the same focus. I still want to try and get 3 contacts per yard, 30 contacts per 10 yards. Once we've gone through all 3 of these drills and we've done it for a couple of weeks, then I'm going to begin to lengthen it. Instead of doing it for 10 yards, we'll go 20 yards, then 30 yards. So once we get past that 10-yard segment, I think of the 10-yard segment as more of a technical piece, okay? Once we get to 20 and 30 yards, I term it more of our special strength work. Because if you do 30 yards of an A march, skip, or run, and you make 90 contacts, you better believe you're going to feel that in your hip flexors. You know, you're going to start to feel that a little bit more. And so, as we go through this, as we get further and further in the distance, the focus of the drill changes. If you read any of the work by Gerard Mock, he actually had his track athletes do this for 100, 200, even 400 yards at a time. So if you're going through an 8 march for 400 yards, you're going to be just lit up, okay? Now, this was more from a strength endurance standpoint, okay? So these were used during different times of the year for that endurance effect. So, once I'm sorry about these videos. I don't know why they're turning sideways here. So we've gone through our 3A drills, and once we've gone through that, we're going to go through the skip like you saw in the video before. Now they're going through the A run, all right? Same focus. We're getting that knee up, driving down under the hip, maintaining that good tall posture. So this is where we're going to stop from a form running standpoint or that technical standpoint. Now we're going to start to get into our true acceleration drills. So, and you can see it here as the team is going through it. Now, as we go through this here, I can have them go as a team if I feel like they know what they're doing and they know what the intent of the drill is. If I don't like this, we'll do a lot of our drills just from a waterfall start, okay? If I have 40, 50, 60 guys out there and I want to really be able to see what they're doing, I'll have the first guy go. Once he's 5 yards in, the second guy goes, and the third guy goes. So I'm able to see them one at a time. Now I've got to be able to process information very, very quickly and remember exactly what I saw. Because once the second guy goes through, if I notice, all right, he needs to keep his toe pulled up, the third guy's already going. So you can change the stagger for however you need to, but that's one way that I'll send them through that drill so that I can see everybody a little bit better. So when we get into our acceleration drills, I take very much a constraint-based approach, okay? So we can look at the drills or we can look at what's going on and I can say to them, okay, this is what you need to change. This is what we need to do different. But again, if they're not an auditory learner, that means nothing to them, okay? I've got to put them in a situation to give me the desired effect that I want. And so these are some of the things that we're going to do or we're going to use in order to get that desired effect. So again, we've got it broken down into 2 segments. We've got our acceleration segment, and then we've got our top end speed segment. So from an acceleration standpoint, the first thing that I'm going to use is I'm actually going to use the 4 running drills. So we're going to start out, TJ's in his A run here. We're going to go 10 yards, he'll lean, and then we're going to drive out. Because is an A run not an acceleration, just in a different posture? That's what I want. And TJ, if you guys follow Altus or you follow Stuart McMillan at all, this is a prototypical puller. And you'll see it here in a little bit. There's pushers and there's pullers. You'll see it in a little bit when we go through our wicket drills. When he goes through his acceleration, he gets a big reach and pulls through in his acceleration. That's something that I tried to coach out of him for a long time, and at this point, I've stopped. He has no hamstring issues. He has no glute issues. And when I change everything up, it jacks with the whole system. So he is a prototypical puller. Now, like I said, we'll start with our A run here. Once we hit that 10-yard line, we're going to accelerate out. The biggest issue is making sure that they are patient in that lean, that we don't go from our A run position